shoot. So, so the more, I was saying in the last video that the more personal power you have, the more you have to give people. And the spiritual, much of your spiritual work has to be on restructuring your ability to be functional, your ability to make a decision, and understanding how to rewire the mind, how to repattern your mind through a kind of systematic technology or methodology. And if you don't have that, then, you know, just jumping around talking about spiritual things like, you know, being a service and giving, you know, you can't make it all about that, because you have to first be an instrument that's empowered. Like a clear example that I could give is, for example, let's use an extreme example. You know, Superman was able, let's compare two people that are like being designated to be, you know, kind of like avatars to help the world, right? You know, these people that have been given the role to be avatars. What's another word for avatars? Just like, you know, service-oriented beings, right? That have come to, like, you know, that their main function is to help the planet. Okay, so you have somebody that we're going to give that role to. Okay, now who would you rather, you know, give that role to? Like Superman, okay, or somebody that is just a nice guy, somebody who's like a nice guy who is very insecure. Okay, I'm trying to think of somebody right now that I could think of, but, you know, some kind of character. Let's imagine some kind of, you know, slightly nervous, insecure kind of person, and that person just says, I just want to be, you know, a giver, I want to help the world. And we have that insecure person. So who would you rather vote as like the person that should be the avatar? Superman or the insecure nice one who really wants to be of service? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Of course it's Superman, you know, and if Superman seems too far-fetched, you know, we'll just use hypothetical examples. Somebody who just wants to be, somebody who is generally like a confident, strong person that makes things happen, you know, who's pretty poised and makes things happen, or somebody who's insecure and nervous, doesn't know, you know, what they want, but yet they really want to be spiritual, and somebody told them that they should be givers and they should be, you know, loving, service-oriented people. Who would you rather vote in as like the person for that job? Obviously, it's the first one, the Superman type person, the empowered type person, because the more personal power you have, the more you can do, the more you can give away, the more you can make things happen, the more money you can generate to be of service and help more people. The more you offer people techniques and a system that they can emulate so that they can also be empowered. I mean, what good is it if all you can do is just be nice and constantly, you know, do you know, soup kitchens and don't, you know, and donate a few bucks here and there. I mean, that's great, and there's a place for that. But I'm saying that's not the ultimate thing to strive for. If you want to make a really powerful impact on the world, you got to go for that higher level where you're trying to be the empowered person with the personal power, and then from there, you know, try to impact the world as much as you can from that place. And of course all those things have their place. The soup kitchen or the, you know, young insecure person who wants to volunteer their time. But people need to understand that just jumping into that kind of service-oriented thing from a disempowered place, there's a lot of paths that are like that. A lot of paths that talk about, you know, the path of being of service. And if you don't understand how to get yourself together, you know, that stuff doesn't pan out as well as people think it's going to pan out. Okay, and that could be, you know, a whole like book unto itself. I just want to make it clear that we can start being service-oriented from today, from right here and now, and doing it at whatever level we can. I want to make that very, very clear. I'm not saying you need to be perfect and super to then be some kind of a giver. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, yeah, we can start from wherever we are, and there's always something we can do to help other people, no matter who we are. But it should, a better way to look at it is while we're doing whatever little things we can, we're putting a lot of focus on us being strong, on us taking control of our minds, of understanding how to reprogram ourselves, understanding how to remain in empowered states of mind and of consciousness, and to be able to take action and steer through life with a technology that keeps us strong and empowered. Okay, so that is, to start wrapping it up, the messages that I want to summarize again is understanding that this all this spiritual stuff, it's not just about feeling oneness, it's not just about feeling a peace and getting into that kind of airy-fairy stuff. It really should be seen as a technology, as a methodology where we can take control of our minds and our belief systems and repattern the mind. And sometimes that requires a lot of focus. That's another thing that I want to say, is that it needs to be, the more we can bring alive, let's say these circuits, like that circuitry of something you decide that you want. Right now you're like bringing circuits alive in your brain. The more those circuits come alive, the more powerful something is. So, and the way to make those circuits come alive is by seeing it and repeating those thoughts that you want, and repeating them with emotion, or getting quiet, or getting quiet and seeing it and hearing it and making it come alive. Because a lot of why people, here's something that a lot of people don't understand. This is where people get all caught up in psychology and wanting to get good at seeing psychologists and psychological theories, and why can't I change even though I've been in therapy for 11 years. So much of it has to do with that they're not rewiring the mind and bringing those circuits alive to a place to where changes can happen, because then you're not compelled enough. You haven't come alive enough in that area of the thing that you want, of let's say a goal that you have. And if you haven't come alive enough in it, you're always going to fall short, because you're going to be sort of limp. Okay, I hope that makes sense. You're going to be sort of limp in something. So that's one of the reasons. There's a variety of reasons, but that's one of the reasons why people don't change, or why they can't make things happen, is that the circuitry hasn't become deep enough, the wiring hasn't become deep enough, so they go limp. They'll get excited. They'll be like, oh, now I need to, make more money, and let's take it away from money. Now I need to drop those, I'm finally going to drop those 25 pounds. Well, if they haven't come alive enough in that area in their mind, they're going to fall short. And then they're going to come up with these cockamamie psychological theories. Oh, I guess I don't really want to lose the weight. On some level, I must be afraid of being thin. And those things do happen. I'm not saying they don't. They do happen, especially somebody that's been hurt a lot, in relationships. And let's say it's a woman who's been seduced a lot, by guys telling her how sexy her body is, and then she gets used, just for sex or something. That could cause something like that, okay? That does exist. But in some cases, in a lot of cases, there's none of that going on. There's not a weird, psychological thing that needs to be uncovered. A lot of times it's just that you don't believe it enough. It hasn't come alive enough for you. It's not compelling enough. It doesn't generate enough emotion and excitement. That neuro pattern isn't alive enough for you. You may get excited about it for a day or two, but that's not the same as like a neurocircuitry that's taking place. And when that starts to kick into gear, that helps, let's say in this case, helps you achieve the weight loss goal. So, this is something that most people don't understand. It's a very, very important concept, that you need to really take everything that you desire, everything that, let's say you create an affirmation around, or that you make, let's say you choose a bunch of affirmations of something that you want, or goals that you want to achieve. Every one of those affirmations for those desires should feel deep in your mind. It should be like a deep experiential kind of connection that you have to it. Okay, a real deep sense of certainty and connection, because then that'll help you follow through, because you've wired it in you a lot more. And here's another thing that very few people comprehend. When that wiring in takes place, a lot of psychoanalysis, there's no need for it. It makes psychology, to a large degree, it makes it kind of obsolete. Not totally, not completely, okay, but a lot of these, psychological theories then become psychobabble, because a lot of these things are happening, just these issues that we're having is because we haven't just wired our brains to get connected to it enough, and then get fired up, so then we can take action. And it's not just about getting fired up, but that we're wired enough to where it's a habit, and we're just ready to do what needs to be done. Okay, it's not always fired up. It's just a habit. I mean, a person doesn't need to get fired up to brush their teeth because they've just made it such a habit, right? And it's the same thing with all this like transformation work. Okay, so I've thrown a lot out there. I almost made this kind of stream of consciousness because I want to have this in a journal, and this will eventually be done much more in a much more neat way. But there's a lot of good information on here to change the way people think of spirituality in just these kinds of like hokey ways, and understand that it should be a methodology to where you can make powerful changes. Okay, and even break away from the common ideas of what this stuff is about. That it has to be in this kind of like hippie way, or that it has to be very pious, or that it has to be very service oriented. There's a place for all of that, but I also think there's a place to be kind of warrior like about it. I think that's very important at times, not all the time, but at times, to bring that determined attitude into it as well, because that is when that comes into it. In order for things to change, things that we want to see dramatically change, especially quickly, determination is a muscle that needs to be used. Determination is a state that needs to be used. I mean, that's just how it is. And spiritual people, a lot of spiritual people don't like that. I've even been, accused of like, being too, I think that it was referred to like that I was too male, too much of a male intensity or something, and that's just simply because I'm trying to put a benchmark, a standard, and move towards those things, and people don't understand that in spirituality. They really, really don't. So there's got to be a place for that as well. Okay, along with all the other stuff. I mean, of course we can't OD on the intensity stuff, because then we just become sort of like psychos. So okay, so that's it. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever it is.